just to kick things off, can you just tell us a little bit about the history of Troy?
Okay. Secret Escapes is probably the most well-known business I was involved in, but prior to that, I founded a company called Deal Checker, which was a simple price comparison, click arbitrage business for travel. And that's probably where I first got introduced to affiliate marketing. That was a good sort of 10 years ago or so. And it's really interesting seeing how we were very much in that industry back then. Secret Escapes had a slightly different model. Secret Escapes was much more about a subscriber base and actually becoming a direct retailer. So we weren't generating revenue necessarily from affiliates as much as we were at Deal Checker, because Deal Checker was very much a publisher. And I think Secret Escapes nowadays, just so you know, I haven't been involved operationally there since about 2014. But Secret Escapes is now a retailer where they pay affiliate commission. Fast forward that, I jumped out of travel and decided I'd play my hand at fashion, weirdly. And again, we're right back in the kind of publisher realm, and most of our revenue comes from affiliates. So I've sort of seen two very, very big industries in the affiliate world from different angles, been on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, and specifically, I mean, I've got a big experience of jumping between the two retail and travel verticals as marketing stuff. Just before we go right into the performance bit, have you noticed, what are the big differences between those two verticals?
Between travel and fashion?
Yeah, apart from average order value, which is the obvious one.
Fashion's a very interesting industry, it has to be said. It's very, very different to travel. I think travel's a lot more predictable, a little bit less emotional, I think, is one way to say it. But I think we were just sort of chatting before, I used to think that travel was a seasonal business, it is a seasonal business, but it's not, the daily temperature, for example, doesn't have any impact on what people buy in travel. You can predict it throughout the year. People buy their summer holidays at certain times of the year and all the rest of it. Whereas what's really interesting for fashion is that the temperature on the day has a massive impact on whether or not you're going to sell anything. And
crucially, seizing that point, as we were just discussing, what do you think from a performance marketing point of view? Affiliates could step up and use that sort of data from a weather point of view?
Yeah, I think definitely there's a world where both publishers and affiliates, or merchants, I guess, could work more closely together in order to pool their collective wisdom, I guess. So I know there's some fashion brands out there who actually employ meteorologists to understand more about the weather, both what happened previously and what they're predicting is going to happen in the future, to get that knowledge to the publishers so that they can help formulate different campaigns and drive traffic, at the appropriate times. I think that'd be really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And going specifically into the sort of performance marketing side of things, I mean, your front end of what you're doing now is obviously quite a move on from the Secret Escapes retail model now, obviously.
Yep.
So you're pushing the boundaries in terms of social content marketing, driving the top of that funnel. And I think we talked about earlier, you're getting clicks, in theory, away from the likes of Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
So where's that plan? Is it?
So I think that's probably one of the main things we should probably talk about today is that when it comes to affiliate marketing compared to all the other ways that you can drive traffic or drive acquisition, what really surprises me, given having an understanding of all of the different markets, is that today you really have, when online, the two big options are Google and Facebook is where you're going to drive most of your traffic and hopefully sales from. But I would imagine most people in the room are accepting that they're not getting a positive ROI on a lot of the spend that they're getting out of Google and Facebook. And, sure, they drive a lot of the volume, I think there's a lot of companies who hope that over time they're going to optimize their spend, they'll eventually drag it down, it's their fault basically that they're not getting the ROI out of these channels, and they're happy to accept that. But then when it comes to affiliate marketing, where you're going to get a guaranteed return on your investment without question because you make the rules and you decide, they still only offer to the publishers a small proportion of that revenue that they're going to earn. And it just seems bizarre to me that we're still in this situation where you can go to a marketing director and you can say, you will be guaranteed at worst to break even on this spend, and yet there's a reluctance to do that.
And what do you think that reluctance is?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably... there's a fear that they're going to be taken advantage of. I think there's also what's been baked into a lot of people's models is that the affiliate side of the business, because it's got that guaranteed ROI, it's actually picking up the slack for a lot of the inefficient marketing that they're doing in other parts of the business. And so quite often what will happen is that a marketing director or the board will look at a blended cost of acquisition, and they'll be hitting their targets, but a lot of the heavy lifting is probably being done by the affiliate side of the business. And fast forward a little bit further, in my experience, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, the team who runs the affiliate channels in these retailers, they, with the greatest respect, quite often are sitting at the bottom rung of the marketing department, if you know, they're like the entry-level positions. And they don't always have the ability to make the big decisions, to negotiate. It's very much a kind of computer says, no, it's got to be at this, these are the sorts of targets you've got to hit. And they're just kind of doing the admin. And it's just, obviously I've got an agenda. I'm a publisher. I earn money from affiliates. I think we'd obviously, all publishers will probably sit there and say we'd love to get paid more. But from a more strategic perspective, wouldn't everyone be in a much better situation if there was a legitimate competitor to the big players like Google and Facebook in terms of volume? And the only way that we can get there is if the publishers get enough of the revenue in order to drive their own audiences. So at the moment, we're kind of caught in this catch-22 where a lot of publishers can't afford to grow. And so the only volume still comes from the big incumbents. So how do you break that?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're referencing ROI at the moment, you're talking at pure acquisition level, so you're not going beyond into lifetime value.
I'd love to go to lifetime value because,
so absolutely one of the themes from the earlier sessions was the need to engage from a publisher point of view or from an affiliate point of view in much more of a lifetime value relationship.
Yeah.
So beyond that pure acquisition piece. And I know just from my most recent, my current role and previous CMO roles where, taking that board on that journey to get beyond that first click acquisition stage is actually the challenge.
Yep.
And it's the age, it's the maturity of the lifetime value model as well, which can be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think, that was one of the things that Secret Escapes has always done very well right from the beginning because it was a subscriber business. Pretty much from day one, we knew exactly how much we could afford to pay for a customer for an email address. And we could then track for 2 to 3 years what the value of actual revenue we're going to earn from that customer over a 2 or 3 year period. And what was really interesting is we had some great success in signing some really large strategic partnerships because we were effectively educating a lot of big publishers that month's 30-day cookie CPM equivalent that we would be compared to when we did a revenue share deal with some of these big publishers is a tiny proportion of the 2 to 3 year lifetime value of that customer. And again, that's where I'm coming from in terms of the missed opportunity, I think, for a lot of retailers when it comes to the affiliate side of things. It's absolutely possible to consider a world where you just gave 100% of the first sale to the publisher, and you're still going to be 10 times better off than probably a lot of the money that you're spending on traditional other means on a CPM or a CPC basis.
Yeah.
Because you do have that ability to then continue to market to that customer.
And presumably the affiliate can obviously go bigger guns in terms of volume thereafter and different and stuff as well. So
absolutely.
It's interesting. And, I mean, specifically on the sort of post-initial acquisition piece, when you're, affiliates are saying we want to engage more and more in that post, the lifetime value relationship, how do you see that working in the future? Because from a brand point of view, it's quite nerve-wracking because potentially one example is we could give our database, Facebook style, to one of our top-performing affiliates, and they could remarket to them, for example. That's quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I don't know if it. I don't know. I think in general there needs to be board-level strategic thoughts about how to exploit this as an opportunity. And I think that's probably one of the things is that you point more brains at a problem and you can get better results. And I do feel in my experience that a lot of the time that the affiliate side of the business isn't sitting at that level, and so that it's people just aren't thinking about it in that perspective. They're thinking we're getting a little bit. I would imagine, I don't know what the average. Maybe you can tell me actually what proportion of your sales actually comes from your affiliate.
Well, last click, which I shouldn't quote, last click's probably around about 15%, but fully attributed is more like 27%.
Right.
And I can share that because we put that on our network publishers. So yeah, which is really crucial. What are you allowed to say what the remainder is? Or who are the other bigger players? Teeny bit of PPC within that, not vast amounts, because we're probably similar to you in that we're we're challenged with, we're almost at direct response rate with direct response sort of stage with PPC now.
Yeah.
Trying to get out in the generics, it's a bit too pricey.
Yeah.
I'd love an affiliate to take that on, by the way.
Yeah.
But also, you know, the opportunity for us is more in the SEO and the big thing, we're a bricks to clicks retailer, so our 60% of our sales actually come from in-store data capture.
Right.
So that's our big thing. We then reharvest using retargeting and all the rest of it. So we're quite strong on the bricks to clicks piece.
And I think you made a point there, I think, which is an interesting one, where you sort of said you'd love the affiliates to take on a lot more of your PPC side of things.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's the sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? That's where, and how do you do that? Like, I think a lot of businesses, you know, if you make clothes, then, and you've obviously got an e-commerce department, you know, quite often if you stick to your knitting, you're going to get a better result. And quite often where you've got a scrappy, with the greatest respect, scrappy publisher who knows how to generate large audiences, how do you engage with them more on a strategic board level basis to harness their skills in driving that, you know, being a much better PPC marketeer than you could possibly be when you're focusing your efforts on, you know, building a brand?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, just touching on that whole piece around brand building, affiliates historically have been all about direct response, I guess, in the early days, certainly in the sort of early days of Secret Escapes. And I think the more I talk to some of the big players now, it's much more about that embedded relationship, where they're working on rich media campaigns, and they are working with you alongside a trade plan, for example. I mean, do you see that continuing and going forward, especially with what you're doing as well?
Not so much for us personally at the moment. I know I've seen it around. You know, I think it's a good point, right? Like the types of really creative campaigns that you see that come out of the traditional advertising budgets, the display and the media sales. You know, there's no reason why, if you can make a rich kind of, you know, fully immersive display native campaign work on a CPM basis, you're guaranteed to make it work on an affiliate basis, right? And you could probably get a lot more volume out of it. And you can, you know, so I guess that's still the thing that I don't quite get as to what's the blocker? Why is the affiliate side of a marketing strategy deemed as separate to, you know, I guess probably what some people might describe as the more fun stuff, you know, the more creative stuff. They should be intertwined. They should be a lot more integrated, I think. Yeah,
and I think it's something with the people have tried not to touch on so far, but the attribution piece and the maturity and confidence in those models has been a big contributing factor to that.
Yeah.
So the more people can lean forward on that, the better, really, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just touching, here's a random question for you, especially with your Secret Escapes sort of experience. Are we allowed to say Secret Escapes?
You can, I think,
sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things there...
Smug face, I think.
Yeah. You must get that wherever you go. One of the things is, can you imagine, you also with their TV spend? Don't tell me what. I don't need to know the budget, but the TV mix within that was always really quite high.
Yeah, well, so
obviously a big direct response point to that. So
absolutely,
would that ever be an affiliate that would do that TV for you?
Yeah. So actually, Secret Escapes was I think it's okay to say this that was one of the unique things about Secret Escapes' early growth. Was that we managed to find a model that we could capitalise on the dual screening when dual screening wasn't even a thing. So you know, people were sitting at home with their you know, smartphones on their lap, and then they saw secretescapes.com, and they immediately logged on and became a member. And so we could actually attribute a comparable cost to what we'd pay Google or Facebook or some of the other, you know, traditional direct response media directly from TV.
And that was a while ago, wasn't it? Sort of 2009, was it?
Beginning of 2011, end of 2011, early 2012.
Yeah. So long before, say, the likes of Boohoo had established direct response session.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is that we could establish what we could afford to pay on an acquisition of a customer basis, but for us it was absolutely all about the lifetime value of that customer, and because the numbers just don't work if you're looking at a 30-day horizon. It just doesn't work. No, totally. But we've proved, you know, conclusively that you can build a very, very large successful business by actually really kind of leveraging the actual value of that customer over the genuine lifetime of their business. And you know, relating that back to affiliates, when you know that you can guarantee a minimum cost for that customer, if you attribute that lifetime value, you could spend so much more, and the publishers could drive so much more value. Volume, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, and do you think the publishers would they?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, because like, what does that open up for you in terms of, you know, there's lots of different types of publishers. There's publishers who are newspapers who have got like a ready-made audience that's already there. They're having an opportunity cost at the moment. They're deciding, well, where am I going to put some money? Am I going to drive the volume through these affiliate channels that are earning me nothing? Or am I going to get it, you know, through CPM or through Google Display Network and all the rest of it? Likewise, you've got somebody who might be a you know, fantastic kind of growth hacker. Again, they're sitting there going, well, where am I going to drive the traffic to? That volume is available. It's just that you've got to pay for it. Just like you're prepared to pay a higher CPC to get more volume out of Google, people have to accept that they're going to have to pay a higher guarantee, but higher CPA, but still you're going to get that guaranteed return.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And where do you see the future then, in terms of where? I mean, interesting with your, obviously with your newer business, that would be interesting to hear where you.
In terms of,
because it's a disruptive model, isn't it? You're doing so.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see where Amazon, for example, is coming in and kind of eating a lot of sectors. Fortunately, you know, I think there's some time before they eat everything, but that's an interesting one. And I think obviously there's lots of downward pressure on the commissions that they're prepared to pay from a publisher's perspective. But what I think, if I look forward to what I'd like to happen in the future, is, you know, these sorts of conferences I think are very much about, you know, talking about the potential of driving this as a channel further up the food chain, like getting it up there so that you know, it can be exploited much more effectively than it currently is. That's what I'd like to happen.
Yeah, so, and I guess it's just that belief, having an established attribution model that demonstrates its first click, then it still contributes as it goes all the way through, I guess.
Yeah.
So I keep touching on attribution, I can't help it.
I think the other thing though as well is that the affiliate networks themselves have a big role to play in this, right? So one of the biggest frustrations as a publisher is leakage. And you know, the big problem is, especially with fashion, is that you're driving traffic from a mobile device to a mobile web version of a fashion site, and not all of them, but a lot of them then transfer you from that to their app, and obviously the cookies are dropped. You know, that's a huge problem because, again, you know, I keep banging on about the publishers need to be paid more. It's not the commission necessarily. Like, if you could probably get away with paying a lot lower commission, but making sure that the publisher actually gets recognition for all the sales that they're driving. Because ultimately, what people should be thinking about is not, oh, I'm getting a really good return on my relationship with my publisher at the moment. Turn it on its head and think, well, actually, what's the publisher actually earning on a cost per click basis, or, you know, a CPM basis that from us as a business? And if it's only like 2p, that's not sustainable, right? If you can afford to pay them, whichever way it is, but having a better website with better conversion by, you know, plugging the holes where leakage happens, you know, stuff like that doesn't actually cost the retailer anything, that puts more money in the publisher's pocket, you're going to get more volume, you know. So, and that's, as I say, the affiliate networks themselves are doing, you know, a lot of hard work in order to kind of connect those dots. But I think there's a long way to go as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And which sort of brands or networks out there you think are really nailing it at the moment in terms of that? Well,
everyone in this room, obviously.
Absolutely,
I mean, I think, you know, so in fashion, the biggest players are obviously Affiliate Window and Rakuten, and that's not our choice. That's, you know, it's the retailers themselves that choose who they work with. You know, and they, you know, we have a great relationship with them, but I think, you know, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, no, so I mean, the interesting move from Amazon on the fashion side of things as well is quite interesting, because again, it's...
Yeah, we're hoping they'll take a long time to figure that out.
Yeah,
no, I think Amazon is in the room.
Yeah, it's probably yeah, I mean, my opinion in terms of, because we do Amazon FBA, we do Optimize Amazon, we're doing some stuff with Channel Advisor soon as well, and I think where Amazon are right now is that they're still kind of bottom of funnel in terms of not necessarily what you're trying to do, which is just latch onto trends. And
I think there will always be a the Amazon will very easily scoop up all the homogenous types of fashion, if you like, but I think there should always be a room for the boutique brands and the breakaway brands that are kind of wanting to do something different. I think that's the great thing about fashion, is that you can have lots of brands that, you know, come out of nowhere and suddenly get huge popularity. But like with everything, they all kind of go on a product life cycle, and they need to be reinvented, and you know. So that's the arms race, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, one of the sort of session over there we go. Can I ask one last question very quickly? Super quick, just on international.
Yeah.
So have you seen, obviously, German market, UK market's very, very mature from a performance point of view.
Yep.
Have you seen any other markets that are kind of emerging?
Not really. I don't know.
No,
I couldn't
okay.
answer it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a quick question then.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
good one. Sorry.
All right, no worries. Good stuff. All right,
That's
well,
it.
thanks for your time, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.